So Chrissy, I usually have Hudson do the theme song, but he is on assignment, it looks like. So can you do the theme song to SPSM chat, please?
I don't really?
Yes, please do.
I don't what? I don't know. What do I do? Do I just sing something?
Yes, anything.
No. Oh my God, no. No. Itsy bitsy spider when there you go. We're live on SB.
That fits. That fits the
good.
brand.
I liked it.
So
I could trigger some folks.
I'm sure it will, but let's just start the show. Hudson's back with us, thank God.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Take a deep breath. We are live. Hey everyone, welcome. How's everyone doing? Let me just make sure to pin this sumbitch to our tweets, to blah 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 blah. Hey everyone, I'm Rudy Caceres, and this is You're Doing It Wrong. I certainly feel like that sometimes. SPSM chat, suicide prevention, social media. I'm Rudy Caceres, of course. There's my little handle thing. There we go. So we're going to be talking about OCD, Obsessive Compulsive Disorder, and our guest, Chrissy Hodges, is going to break down and lay it down. Okay, so if you're watching this live, please let us know that you're here. Let us know that you care by using that hashtag SPSM. In case you're wondering, I finally was able to pin it to the tweet. So hopefully everyone on Twitter and Periscope is watching live. Hello, everyone on Facebook and YouTube as well. So before we get into the swing of things, let's do our round rectangle of characters, and let's go to my co-host, Hudson Harris.
Hello, everyone. This is Hudson Harris coming at you live from San Diego. You can find me online at Mental Strategy on Twitter and Instagram. I'm also on Facebook, posting more memes than I probably should in a single day. I'm a behavioral health system designer. I work with governments on how to design better technology-enabled systems of care. And I'm very excited for tonight's guest to talk about OCD and suicide.
Why?
OCD and suicide is one of those like niche areas of suicide prevention and suicide care that I've read a lot about and think that it's something that's really underreported and under-researched. So I'm pretty excited to kind of talk through it with somebody who actually knows what they're doing.
Well, you know, the thing I like about you, Hudson, is that there are times we do topics and I asked you to be a guest host or a co-host, and I'm not sure like what you're going to know, and I don't want to put you in a hard position where like you feel like you have to be on the show and then you come on and then you fucking set it on fire. So I'm glad you're here.
Light the shit on fire, Rudy. Let's save some lives tonight.
Tell the whole world, the whole SPSM chat universe galaxy, disorderism, who is the compulsive galaxy, who is Chrissy Hodges.
Hi, everyone. Rudy, thank you for having me. It's always so great to collaborate and do stuff with you, and you're just such an amazing advocate and an amazing connector. My name is Chrissy Hodges. I'm an advocate for OCD, particularly the community they call Pure OCD, which is a controversial term, which we can talk about, but I'm going to tell you I'm sticking to it because my memoir is called Pure OCD, The Invisible Side of Obsessive Compulsive Disorder. I'm a certified peer support specialist here in the state of Colorado. I work with people around the world supporting them who live with obsessive compulsive disorder. I also do referral consultations to connect people with therapists who can actually treat OCD, which is another big you're doing it wrong part about getting treatment for OCD. And I am, what else do I do? I'm the founder and executive director of OCD Gamechangers. I own a government contract for peer recovery services that put peer support specialists in the state institutions of Colorado. And ta-da, my business launches tomorrow, a brand new business called OCD Peers, where we are, myself and my business partner and another gentleman are starting to run groups every single day for OCD. With their themed, they're based on where you are at in therapy. It's all peer support, and we're going to do community nights. So that starts tomorrow in the middle of a huge move. So yay, life.
No joke. This has got to be like the 5th or 6th show you've been on of mine. Like, And I feel like I've been on like 2 or 3 of yours too. So we go way back. You're one of my favorite people, mental health advocate or otherwise. So we've been through so much, and we finally live in the same state now.
I know. And we're both like trying to navigate where we're going to live. So once we both get settled, I can't wait for us to hang on someone's porch.
I'm pretty upset that I've been on neither of your shows.
Well, I mean, you're on the show that counts. So there you go.
Okay.
SPSM chat. Chrissy was one of our first guests on our SPSM chat 3.0 iteration. So you are always welcome on our show.
Thank you. Thank you. It's so good to be here. I always love doing this, and I've been watching and just really appreciative of what you're doing to bring awareness to this. So thank you.
Well, thank you. So let's get right into the swing of things, and let's get on to question number one. Question number one, and it is a doozy. How is suicide prevention letting down people diagnosed with OCD? Take it away, Chrissie Hodges.
So this is a really important topic, and there's a couple different distinctions that I want to make, and we can actually even circle back if we need to. The problem with, so we don't have a good, a good study or whatever to go to talk about OCD and suicide, even though it's so prevalent. Unfortunately, it's just not in the priority sometimes for us to really talk about what people go through when they're suicidal with OCD. There's like 8,000 different things that contribute to that, but I'm going to try to focus on just 1, 2, or 3. Some of the stats out there are people with OCD are 10 times more likely to commit suicide than the average person. Many therapists, again, I can't say that I have this as stats, but many therapists, because I'm really connected in the community, would say that upwards of 80+% of their clientele will report contemplating suicide or attempting suicide. Now, as someone who has OCD, has survived a suicide attempt, and now supports individuals with OCD, I would easily say that 90% or more of the people that I work with will tell me straight away, I have contemplated, I have thoughts of suicide, or I have attempted suicide. So why are we letting people with OCD down when it comes to suicide prevention? Because let's just grab it by the horns. You know why? Because people don't fucking take OCD serious. That's why. Because it's a joke. Because it's funny, because people think it's so quirky and they want to make little memes or whatever they want to do about how everybody has a little OCD. And then when people in the advocacy community or family members or people with or organizations fight back, then it's, oh my God, you're just being too PC. This is the life of living in OCD advocacy. Nobody takes it seriously because they think it's so funny and quirky and they just want to believe they have a little. But then when we're trying to talk really the meat of OCD and how we need to get people to treatment, which, by the way, is really difficult for financial, cultural, a lot of reasons, then it's, then anytime anyone speaks up, it's, oh my God, why do you have to be so sensitive? Well, you know what? Why I want to be so sensitive? Because people are dying. People are dying from OCD. And here's the thing. It is not just about cleaning your room. It's not just about organizing. It's about sexual, violent, scrupulous, health, relationship themes for OCD that are painful for people, that they live with an average of, wait for it, 10 to 14 years before they get an accurate diagnosis. So can you imagine being in an abusive relationship with your brain for that long, not even knowing you have a diagnosable and treatable mental illness? Then let's move on to the, well, majority of therapists think they can treat OCD with EMDR or with CBT, which I do mean CBT with ERP, that's the way to treat OCD. But EMDR, psychotherapy, oh, we just need to dig into some trauma. with psychotherapy and figure out where these thoughts are coming from. So we have that layer of things that people spend hundreds and thousands of dollars on therapy and losing hope every single day, month, year, and only to find out later on, usually by Google search, holy shit, if I'm worried I am, I have AIDS, or if I'm worried that my relationship is the wrong one, or if that I am a pedophile, or if I am gay, or if I'm gay, if I'm worried I'm straight or bi or trans or asexual, or if I'm worried that I, am saying bad things about Jesus or whatever else, then they find out, oh my gosh, this is OCD. And oh my gosh, there's a whole path I have to go down, this hidden path. And by then, we're talking decade into a disorder. And people are usually at a point where they have either contemplated, attempted, and unfortunately, so many people lose their life to this.
Now, Chris, we've talked about this before, and I hate when people say like, "Oh, I'm just a little, I'm a little bit OCD." Just so I don't like it when people say like, "Oh, I'm a little bit bipolar." But like, I tend to be on the side of these symptoms of compulsions and obsessions and voices and mania, that they exist all along the wide spectrum of human emotions and experience. So in a way, wouldn't that be like people can be a little bit OCD?
No. I'm just kidding. I'll elaborate. Okay, people are very OC. People have obsessions. People have compulsions. That's fine. You know what? You want to go into your job and you want to clear and clean your desk off, or you can't be productive. Fine. That's great. But you know what? It's positive. It makes you feel good, right? If I clean my desk and if I straighten things out, I can be more productive. People with OCD do not feel that way. We don't welcome compulsions. We're not excited about them. We are not this. If I do this, things are going to be better. So yes, everybody, I mean, my husband talks about to me all the time. He even talks about having intrusive thoughts, but it is not the same as the OCD, D as in disorder. We're talking about if you worried about your desk being dirty and unorganized, you would worry for 12 hours whether or not your desk was dirty. And the reason why is because a plane would crash if you didn't clean it. So it's not as simple as everyday tasks. I really just like my closet without my towels. I just need them straightened. And if they're not, I just get so OCD about it. No, you don't. No, you don't. Stop. If it's a disorder, we're talking about 6 to 8 to 12 to more hours a day that you are in distress because something isn't the way that you need it to be, or you don't have proof that there isn't going to be some consequence. Now, when we talk about spectrum in the OCD world, and I do want to make sure to put the disclaimer that I'm not a clinician, so I can't really talk about, I can't really say that I know a lot on the clinical level, but I have worked with people for now almost 3 years solely with OCD. But what I will say is a lot of times we talk about like the level of insight someone has into whether they know it's OCD or they can understand that what they're doing is OCD. And for me, I'm just saying me. So if anybody listening that's clinical, I was like, this girl doesn't know what she's talking about. For me, I look at that spectrum in that way of a level of insight, meaning like some people come to me, they're ready to go to therapy. They're like, okay, I have OCD. I've just found this out. I want to do therapy and let's go. Like that insight is, I know I'm not a pedophile, or I know I'm not a murderer, or I know I'm not this. I want to do therapy. And then there's some people I will work with for a really, really long time. They cannot buy into that insight that this is really OCD. They just get stuck in those symptoms. Another piece that adds to that spectrum layer is this: OCD has a tendency to ebb and flow for people. So because I can really only talk about my own lived experience, I lived with OCD for 12 years before I attempted suicide, and then was fortunately diagnosed back in 1999, I would have periods of time, months at a time, that I would go, oh, wow, that must have just been a phase, or whatever those intrusive thoughts were. Those aren't here anymore. Even though I would know that they were still in the back of my head, it wasn't at the forefront and really just dominating everything that I did and me just trying to survive. So often you can talk to someone with OCD any given year, and they could maybe say, oh yeah, OCD doesn't bother me at all. And then fast forward 12 months, they are completely debilitated and just covered in OCD and can't see clearly. So I think a lot of times that also goes into people's ability to say that they're on some sort of spectrum. But in general, I'm just going to shut it down. Like people that say they're a little OCD, just stop, because OCD is a debilitating disorder that requires treatment that people die from. So if you have little quirks or you have a little of this and you're not worrying about it hours and hours and out of a day, you don't have OCD. So just, you know what? Say you're OC. And there we go. That's the solution.
Question number 1, what say you, Hudson Harris, strategic mentalist?
Ooh, that's a new one for you, Rudy. I like that. I would actually like to say to Chrissy first that I think that Bigfoot and Yeti are real, as per your social media post earlier. And I have another one to toss back to you. Are dragons and dinosaurs the same thing?
Ooh, I don't know.
I get this a lot.
Great. I'm going to think about this for the next 2 weeks now. Thanks, Hudson.
You're welcome. This is part of what I do. This is the joy that I bring to people all around me. So this question, so I thought a lot about this question, and I thought a lot about especially kind of like what my my history and exposure to OCD has been. My very first exposure to OCD was actually through one of my childhood idols, Mark Summers from Double Dare. And for those of you who aren't as old as I am, Double Dare was this show on Nickelodeon where 2 kids or 2 families would team up against each other and just make absolute massive amounts of mess for dares and competitions. And Mark Summers lived undiagnosed with OCD for a very, very long time. And in fact, after I am old, Rudy, thank you. After he came out and was diagnosed with OCD and came out, he was fired. And it was a really interesting kind of experience for me because I remember that when I was younger, and then later on I watched a documentary on him and really kind of understood a whole lot more what was going on with OCD. And I remember that interview when I was younger of him talking about how he would have to comb portions of his carpet. Part of his OCD was really controlling the environment around him, and listening to him and kind of understanding what he was going through really helped kind of bring it real for me and help me kind of understand. Because like I would think that hi Anders. Hi. You just want to say hi? Yeah. Good boy. Go get the snack and I'll be right out, okay?
Do you want Anders to respond to?
That's my film crew.
It's our other co-host.
No pants on. To be fair, I just want everybody in the audience to know that he was wearing clothes when I came in here, but they don't usually last very long. So I think that's one of the things is really an educational piece is helping people understand and relate to what OCD really is. And then, what I would tie to it is that I think that a lot of times the suicide prevention community, and just for full disclosure, I'm not a provider. I'm not an expert on diagnoses or treatment of mental health. What I do really revolves around how we message mental health and suicide prevention, how we message different conditions. And I'll tell you that one of the things that I find with OCD is really what you touched on, Chrissy, which is that we don't message it well. It's something that's often made fun of. It's something that's derided. It's something that's tossed away, or it's, oh, I'm OCD about this. No, you're not. If you're saying you're OCD, a lot of times you're not OCD. It's kind of one of those things to me. And I think that one of the things that I've really been thinking about is how, whenever we have a guest on that has a topic that I haven't really thought on, I try and think about how I'm going to relate this to other people when I talk about it. And I think that the way that makes the most sense to me is really like the suicide prevention community hasn't really messaged or really put enough research, time, money, effort, et cetera into it. But it's OCD is a pain, at least the way that I understand it, and it's an expression of pain that people are feeling. If you think about a lot of times people that are suicidal, you know, the ability to tolerate pain exceeds the pain threshold, or the pain exceeds the threshold of the ability to tolerate. And I think a lot of times OCD is treated with such derision that people don't feel validated and they don't feel seen. And I think everyone watching tonight and a lot of the people that I work with in suicide prevention would agree that we as a field have a very long way to go to validate and accept people for whatever types of pain they are feeling that is driving them towards suicide.
All right, so let's get on to question. Oh, I hate that view. Let's get on to question number 2. Thank you, Hudson. Again, you are bringing the fire. Question number 2. Why don't we talk about OCD and suicide more? Why should we? Take it away, Chrissy Hodges.
Okay, so why don't we talk about OCD and suicide more? Again, because we don't have a lot of data. We don't have a lot of statistics. And also, it's so skewed and people don't take it seriously that nobody cares. I hate to say that, but it's just the truth. You have people like myself out there like pounding concrete, trying to show people that this is a disorder that kills people. And no one wants to believe that. And you know what? And so, oh my God, there's so many layers to this. Like literally, we were saying we were going to go on for 6 hours, and we could. I just want y'all to know, like, I could talk about this for 6 hours, because this is something I want to ask anybody that's watching. What do you think about when someone says OCD? My guess is hand washing. Monk. You probably watched the show Monk, which, sorry, not a good representation of OCD, by the way. It's not positive.
Wait a minute. You mean that Hollywood and television gives poor representations of what real mental illness is?
Yes, exactly.
It's funny. I think about you all the time.
Okay.
Wait, what?
Well, you know, you're going to think about organizing. You're going to think about posts that you see where things are out of symmetry and, oh my gosh, this is triggering my OCD. Okay, so when you think about OCD, that's what you think about. Okay, I am a representative of the community. Do you know what OCD is? OCD is intrusive thoughts with rituals, because the intrusive thoughts are so debilitating and terrifying that you have to try to figure out what's going on. And I need to almost make a mental note of something that Hudson said earlier. We were talking about, like, or he was saying something along the lines of, you can clarify if you want, you know, when someone is, you know, tormented, or, you know, there's this continual not answering the question. Maybe I'm making stuff up, but with OCD, it's this. You're presented with intrusive thoughts where your brain is telling you you have to solve the answer or else. When we think about suicide, and I may be misquoting all over the place, but I'm just going to let you know, people start to contemplate suicide when they feel trapped and when they feel like there may be no answer and there's no hope and there's no way out of what they're dealing with. That's when suicide becomes an option. It's not something that any of us are hoping for or want, but what happens is when you get in a precarious situation, it doesn't matter if it's money, if it's relationship, if it's whatever, it's if I can't find some sort of solution and I start to lose hope that there's no solution, then an option opens up that I should not be here anymore, okay? So when you have OCD, you have a malfunction in your brain in the area that is responsible for your survival, the amygdala, okay? So you're trying to solve problems that have no solution. So if someone, and I love the example earlier, like combing like someone's carpet for germs. You can never be 100% certain that you've gotten them out. It doesn't matter what you do. But and I keep using this example, and I'm using it because I need people to hear this. One of the biggest intrusive thoughts people have is, what if I am a pedophile? Okay? And I know that might seem scary to hear, and you don't even want to hear that word, and I don't care. Because it's one of the most, It's one of the most common things. So that is this. Someone has a baby and they are newly parents and they are cleaning their baby and they have the thought, oh my God, did I just touch my baby the wrong way? Did I just harm the baby? Oh my God, did I have to touch the baby's genitals? What does that mean? Am I a pedophile? What if I do this? What if I do that? Someone is watching a show and a little kid comes on with a cute little dress and they go, oh my God, that kid is so cute. Look how pretty she is. Oh my God, why would I think that an 8-year-old is pretty? Does that mean I'm a pedophile? And so it goes off into intrusive thoughts like that. Now I'm here to tell you, this is like full on why suicide and OCD is so prevalent. Okay? Because people have those thoughts. Okay, these horrible, horrible thoughts that have nothing to do with them and their values. And then they're terrified. And then you're trying to communicate with your amygdala with logic, which does not work. And you continue down this path of, oh my God, why would I even think that in the first place? What does that even mean? Someone help me, someone this. But then, but you can't tell anybody you had those thoughts. Because what if you told someone, I saw this little girl in a show and I thought she was pretty? Does that mean I'm a pedophile? Because what would happen then? Right? So do you see what I'm saying? Like, then it becomes the unsolvable problem that you can't confide in people and you're going crazy because there's no solution. And so the option comes in of, well, then I just don't want to live anymore. And that, my friends, is OCD. And it can latch onto anything. The most common ones that I see are the fear of the fear that I'm a pedophile, the fear that I am going to snap and murder my family, the fear that I am gay, or if someone's gay, the fear that I am straight, or the fear of being bi or trans. Now, this is not homophobia. This is not phobia. It is just not being able to answer the question of what someone believes their sexual orientation to be. The fear of getting AIDS, the fear of getting cancer, the fear of, am I in the right relationship? These are super common themes. I don't even remember the initial question, but I'm going to tell you that this is the reason why people don't understand OCD, because they see cleaning, they see organizing, they don't see I think an OCD reported 67% of people that have OCD have intrusive thoughts of sexual, scrupulous, violent, health, relationship themes with mental rituals. So you will not see that. So you know what? You want to go out and say, oh, I'm a little OCD or whatever. Like, you will never hear us saying that. We would do anything to not tout or brag about the fact that we have intrusive thoughts that threaten everything that we believe about our values. So I'm not sure if I answered the question, but that's my answer.
That's totally fine. Let me challenge you again, Chrissy, because there's no softball here at SPSM chat. So do you think that there's a lot of advocates saying, like, it's not about the hand washing and all that stuff, all the stereotypes, but don't you think that the people who do suffer from those types of OCDs feel marginalized as a result?
No. Okay, wait, what are you asking as far as like
basically people who have the stereotypical OCD symptoms, they might be at risk of people not thinking they have the real OCD because like there's so much messaging now from OCD advocates that it's so much more than that.
So I think that they also suffer there. So it's so funny that you asked this, because this has been a topic recently about all the different degrees of shame people experience. I mean, people experience shame anyway about mental health, but shame in regards to even the different themes. Now, in the OCD world, we always say the themes don't matter, and that's fine. They don't matter when it comes to treatment, because treatment works for OCD no matter what the theme. But the degree of shame that people feel, the degree of, being taken seriously, the degree of other people having empathy and getting support from people also varies, because if you have outward compulsions, people are going to believe more about what your experience is. If you have inward compulsions or mental compulsions and rituals, which is what we call it, you're not going to get the same degree of empathy or understanding from people around you. If you cannot leave the house because you are doing physical rituals, people put 2 and 2 together and they go, wow, this person is really sick. If I'm doing everything in my life but suffering 24/7 with intrusive thoughts for OCD, you're never going to see that, because part of my disorder is perfecting the idea that nobody knows what I'm dealing with because of the shame, and masking the shame is a big part of it. So I would say, like, I'm not really sure if it answers the question, but what I would say is that every single theme that someone has OCD with, or every single theme that somebody has with OCD is relevant to that theme, deserves validation and understanding, and it's still the same degree of suffering. But there are some, like I'd venture to say, oh my God, I might regret saying this, but I will say that there are some themes that, yeah, they're just going to be worse than others, because you have to work through a different level of shame, guilt, embarrassment, and fear about finding out when people deal with harm OCD and pedophilia theme OCD.
Chrissy, if I just called you out of the blue and said, like, do you want to hop on a live stream right now and talk about OCD for an hour, and that be your only prompt, do you think you can do it?
Yes. Oh, sorry.
We'll get to you,
I
Hudson.
mean, what do you think?
I'd watch.
Yes, yes, depending on what my hair looks like. Yes, this is my life. This is my passion.
Yeah. Rudy, I'm very often, I always want to talk, but I think that what Chrissy said was perfect. And as somebody who does not suffer from OCD, I don't think that I should answer this question. I think she nailed it, and mic dropped.
Question number 3, what are misconceptions about OCD? What do they mean for people who might be experiencing OCD-related distress? Take it away, Hudson.
Can you pop that question up one more time? You went really fast.
I know, that was complicated.
I think I was calling on you, right?
I mean, I feel like we've kind of been touching on this the whole night. I mean, I think a lot of it is almost the is turning a lot of the symptoms of OCD into milquetoast of small things that seem to be de minimis or unimportant. I think that's really the key. And one of the things that Chrissy just said that really struck me is really that we have to validate. It's not our job to judge. It's our job to validate and help heal. And I think that a lot of the shame and a lot of the things that surround OCD are things that keep people from seeking help. The fact that the average diagnosis time from onset to symptoms is 10 years is absolutely crazy. Think about it. You know, the average onset for OCD, Chrissy, is like 19. More males are early onset. That for 10 years, from 19 to 29, you're suffering basically invisibly with intrusive thoughts and all sorts of problems. I mean, no wonder that individuals suffering from this are at such high rates or such potential for suicide. And so I think that that's really one of the things. It's not just normalizing discussions of it, it's also promoting help seeking and really validating the pain and the fears while promoting help seeking is what's really critical.
Question number 4.
Wait, aren't you going to go to Chrissy?
I'm just kidding. By the way, one of the things I like about Chrissy is that you can do a screenshot of her like on a video at any point, and you get gold like this.
It's so true.
I do have to say, just briefly while we're laughing, that Pure O is my favorite mental illness name.
Oh, good.
It is. I like names of things, and Pure O to me is one of the best. Like it communicates such a clear concept.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My favorite is Hudson Harris syndrome.
Oh, what are the symptoms of that, Rudy?
I want to know too.
Don't change the subject. Chrissy, question number 3.
Okay, what are
I run a tight ship, okay?
No ship.
Okay, I'll answer that in just 1 minute. One of the things that I do want to say is this, in relation to what Hudson just said about Pure O, so there's this, I'm about to get real. So there's this huge discrepancy in the OCD community, and people get all uptight about the term pure O or pure OCD. And I'm so glad you said that, Hudson, because I'm going to tell you, pure OCD rolls off the tongue way better than violent and sexual mental ritual or intrusive thoughts with mental rituals, right?
That's exactly what I said.
Exactly. It's just so much better. And like people get all riled up because they're like, it should be, it's not scientific or whatever. Well, it was never meant to be a scientific name. It was a community name for people who have intrusive thoughts and mental rituals. So they felt like they were more part of a community that's typically seen as organizing and cleaning. So you know what? People that think that, like, whatever, we got bigger problems in our community than to talk about and argue about semantics. So seriously, like, get over it. Like,
repeat after me. Fuck the haters.
Exactly. I get so tired of it. I'm like, really? You're going to really worry about semantics? Because we got lots of other problems. So with that said, one of our problems is the misconceptions, like the question said, the misconception about what OCD is, but also, and I'm thinking really heavily right now and trying to represent my own community. The misconceptions are how much OCD impacts us. When you have, again, I'm kind of moving away from the physical rituals, and I'm not trying to say that they're not as important, but I really want to represent for the majority of people that have OCD that a lot of people don't understand. When you have intrusive thoughts with mental rituals, pure O, OCD, with some of these really heavy themes, what happens is you turn into this phenomenal actor in your life. A lot of that has to do with shame and guilt, and a lot of it has to do with just embarrassment and fear of not wanting anyone to know. So one of the biggest misconceptions is this: I could tell someone that I have OCD, and I could tell someone I'm triggered right now. We're going out to eat, but I just want to let you know I'm triggered. I am going to act like nothing is wrong because I am focusing every minute moment of like trying not to let my OCD interfere with what is going on at that time. So what happens in this is that we develop this early on. So let's look at when you have harm intrusive thoughts, pedophilia theme, sexual orientation theme, some of these things that are just so tough that you're questioning who you are and your values, which, by the way, OCD has nothing to do with your values and who you are or anything that you want or desire in your life. But if you're doing that, it becomes 24/7. The problem is that we don't want people to know that we are experiencing this, or we don't want people to know out of shame and embarrassment that we're experiencing this, and we don't want to be a burden. So we develop a way to have these wonderful lives and all the stuff that we do, all the while suffering tremendously, sometimes scared to let anyone in. And that is one of the reasons why people live for so long. They're so scared. They don't know it's a disorder. OCD presents itself because we're intertwined with our amygdala. It presents itself as this is a real issue. This is a real problem. Until you recognize that this is disordered thinking, and that actually in changing your behavior, you can actually change the outcome. You don't know that it's anything other than real. So one of the biggest misconceptions is this: oh, I might have intrusive thoughts once or twice a day. No, honey, it is 24/7. By the time I went into therapy, which was 12 years after onset and after a suicide attempt, it was 24/7 intrusive thoughts, not only with mental rituals, but also I had physical components to my body reacting to my fears. So some of that, I won't keep going on, but some of that is you might have physical sensations. So if you have sexual intrusive thoughts, you might have areas in your body that feel like you're aroused. So like any erogenous areas might feel like, oh my God, did my groin just move? Or for men, oh my God, did my back end just move? Or if you have fear of health stuff, you might start to feel like, oh my God, is my head hurting now? Do I really have a brain tumor? You might bring on symptoms of like AIDS or, MS or things like that. People often have fear of schizophrenia. Again, it's not, you're not being prejudiced against it, but they might think, I think I'm hearing things. I think I'm seeing things. And then relationship OCD. If you're worried that you're not with the right person, you might have feelings of actual disgust and you think, oh my God, like, why would I think this? So just, that's a lot of an answer to that question, but we have a hard time even realizing it's a disorder because it is so real for us. And the blessing and the curse of having OCD is realizing how powerful your brain can be, that it can impact everything.
Can I? Rudy is suffering from Hudson-Harris syndrome, I think, right now. I think that's a symptom there. Chrissy, I have a question. You know, one of my favorite diseases to read about is schizophrenia, especially around like the impact of cultural identity varying tremendously from different parts of the world. And it's one of the things that, like, when I found out you were going to be a guest, I went to try and figure out, is there much cultural identity research into OCD? And like, there's not, like, as far as I can tell. And I'm wondering, like, what your thoughts or opinions are. Sorry, Rudy, I'm hijacking. Not sorry. Like, what your thoughts or opinions are on, like, the impact of cultural identity, or, I mean, country of origin, or, you know, whatever, on OCD or presentation or treatment even.
So probably the best way that I can answer this is there just isn't enough data to be able to find any of that out. And a lot of the reason why is because for so many years, people just identified as OCD based on physical rituals. And so if we're looking at this culturally, there is some research. I don't want to say this 100%, but there is some research that OCD is generational. I don't know that off the top of my head. I just read a lot about it. But if we look at this, think about if someone had intrusive thoughts with mental rituals, I would probably have no indication in my family history that someone was actually suffering from that. Yeah. And if they died by suicide, then we probably wouldn't know, because they would have been suffering for so long and then they just died, and we wouldn't have any idea that they have OCD, and they may not have any idea that it's OCD. So I think that we're going to learn a lot more about OCD in the coming decades, but for right now, literally the term pure OCD was just discovered in 1990. And so, there just isn't enough research about it.
So that's really interesting, because I read one of the studies I think that you were referencing, which is 25%. If you have a family with OCD, there's a 25% chance that descendants or direct offspring would also exhibit symptoms of OCD. And I think that is a unbelievably interesting statistic. I think the other one that's really interesting about OCD as well is that most mental illnesses will follow a somewhat traditional bell curve, both in distribution from mild, moderate, severe, and then male and female. There's a lot of illnesses where females will have more incidence rates than male, but the normal bell curve is fairly normal. But with OCD, the weight is serious. So it's there's mild, moderate, and then 50% of the cases were considered serious, and that's really out there in terms of most other mental illnesses don't fit that bill. Do you think that's a facet of underdiagnosis, or what do you think is causing that?
Yes. So I also want to point out that, but this is another underlying problem here, that when therapists are in their master's degree or doctorate programs, they usually get about an hour on OCD, and usually you're going to be looking at, okay, if someone's washing their hands or if someone's doing this and they have OCD, and this is what you're going to do. You're going to use CBT, or you're going to do this, blah, blah. So what happens is that when people find out they have OCD, usually especially with intrusive thoughts and mental rituals, usually they find out over the internet. And so then they go, oh my gosh, okay, so I just need to find a therapist that can help me that treats OCD. If you go to Denver today and type in Psychology Today, who treats OCD, you're going to come up with hundreds and hundreds of therapists. Do you know how many can really treat it here in Denver? 12, maybe. I might even be stretching that. I literally would only refer to 5 therapists here in Denver. So what happens?
For those of us playing along at the home game, if those therapists are comfortable, could you tweet that out later as far as who actually is someone who knows what they're doing in Denver for your people, or for people there?
Yes. And here's the thing. If you're treating OCD with exposure response prevention, which is under the CBT umbrella, but it has to be ERP, then you are treating it correctly. Anything outside ERP is not going to treat OCD correctly. CBT does not work alone. And I mean just cognitive behavioral therapy, not CBT with ERP. I just want to make sure that I'm making that distinction. But anyway, that's part of the problem, Hudson, is that this people typically will go to a therapist and say, look, I have these thoughts about like whether I'm, a gay person might be like, I'm worried I'm straight, or this person might be like, oh, I'm worried I'm this, I'm worried I'm that. And a therapist is going to go, okay, let's look into your trauma. Let's look into your history. And typically they'll diagnose them with generalized anxiety disorder. They're not going to recognize it as OCD. So they're not going to get an official diagnosis of it, which really frustrates people when they find out they're on the internet, like they'll see my videos, or they'll see Made of Millions or an OCD or all these places that are really putting out this evidence-based stuff. They'll go to a therapist and the therapist will go, yeah, you don't have OCD. You're not washing your hands. Can you imagine the loss of hope that someone feels? So it sometimes isn't even just about symptoms that probably makes that curve go really high. It's the consistent loss of hope and the loss of, okay, I'm finally going to invest in this therapist that says that they can help. And all of a sudden they're busting out EMDR, which does not work for OCD. So there's so many factors at play, and there's so much there's so much more information we need to get out there. And unfortunately, the big block is what we started talking about at the beginning of this is everybody just thinks OCD is quirky and funny and they have part of it. And so the big question is, how do we break down that motherfucking barrier and get the right information out there so we really turn the tides and people go, no, OCD is really serious. It can involve any of this, because our goal, like my, grandiose goal would be the moment that someone has scary thoughts, they can reach out to someone and someone goes, boom, I know what's going on. I know where to go, and I know who can treat you. I mean, but we've got a long, long way off.
Hey, Chrissy, well, we got to get to question number 4. We'll get back to you, Hudson.
Do we?
Yes, we do. So shout out to co-host Joelle Marie for coming up with all these questions. So I want to make sure that we do them justice. So question number 4, what can we do differently to support those experiencing suicidal intensity in the context of OCD? Don't worry, Hudson, we'll get back to you.
Is that to me?
Yes.
Okay. So when it comes to people, okay, so I want to be really careful how I talk about this. It is not uncommon. I need to make 2 distinctions here. It's not uncommon for people to feel suicidal when they're experiencing OCD at a huge intensity. Now, I say that, also recognize it over here when someone has a plan, to attempt suicide, please go get help. Please go, please get safe. Please make sure that you have the right supports. But what happens is, and I'm going to refer back to what we were talking about earlier, when you feel like there's no solution, that there's no hope, and you have got to solve this problem and no answer is in sight, because that is how OCD is. It is this solve this problem or else. Literally, that's the urgency all day, every day. When people get to that point, of course, they're going to get to a place where they feel like, I can't do this anymore. I can't keep feeling this way. I'm exhausted. And then people get depressed because it's just a fight day in and day out that they cannot win. When you're fighting day in and day out and you can't win for 10 years, yes, suicidal thoughts are going to happen. And so one of the things that we do, one of the things that I do personally is provide peer support. Now we're starting our new business, the OCD peer groups, because there is just such a healing in knowing that you're not alone. And as trite and ridiculous as that sounds, it's not ridiculous, but you know what I mean? Like, oh, you're not alone. But with OCD, it is imperative to know that you're not the only one on the planet having these intrusive thoughts. I experienced sexual orientation OCD when I was a teenager. I had emetophobia and scrupulosity. Scrupulosity is when religion gets involved. And then emetophobia is the fear of vomiting. But when HOCD, so the fear of being gay, I want to let you know that's not homophobia, by the way. It was just that I didn't know, like I was experiencing this fear of like, what if I am and I'm lying to everybody, but I don't want to be, but I can't stop worrying about it. So what does that mean? It's very, very common. So when I was experiencing this, it was like this insight of I knew I was straight and I wanted dudes that, have sex with dudes. But like my brain was like, but what if you're not? What if you're not? What if you're not? So I dealt with that for 6 years, day in and day out, not wanting to tell anybody. And so at some point I had to say, look, logic isn't working. Emotion isn't working. This feels so real. I don't know what to do. And it wasn't like I was opposed to living a gay lifestyle. If I'm gay, I'm gay. The end. But it's just that OCD presents this question of figure it out or else. And when you're in that situation and you're doing this day in and day out, you're going to develop depression. You're going to develop substance use. Addiction is so prevalent with OCD as well. And so these are all the things that happen. I don't even know where I'm going with this, but I'll just keep talking.
Keep going. You're killing it.
Oh, okay. That's right. So here's the thing. If I had known one person during that 6 years that just came to me and said, oh my God, I feel the same way. And we could talk to each other and go, oh my God, I think this too. And why this and why that? 100%. It would have been a completely different outcome. I would not have attempted suicide. I would have known how to ask for help. I would have known that I wasn't this bizarre monster of a person that can't answer the stupidest questions about my life. And so for me, I was put on this earth for this specific purpose. And we have really just seen that peer support and being able to put people together and say, you have the same theme. Let's just talk about like what that means. It's not a solution and it's not therapy, but it is healing. It is normalizing. It helps with mutuality. It helps with all of this. And for me, it helps with the suicidal piece as well. I still have OCD. I still get suicidal. I still have those thoughts. And what I do is I reach out to people who get it. And then I go, I'm not alone. I'm okay. I'm safe. And that's what's so important for people that have OCD.
Speaking of bizarre monster of a person, what say you, Hudson Harris?
Chrissy, it's almost like going to where people are with a bridge of shared understanding is key to making them feel safe and validated and important and loved, and that we want them to be here. Like, it's crazy talk, right? Like, but we should.
Yes.
I would ask you, I would also just say, like, thank you so much for sharing everything that you've shared tonight, about your attempt, about OCD, about your history, and even some of, like, I think a lot of the details and things that we don't often understand about OCD. And so, like, I think one of the things I'd like to ask you is, I can't ever know how you feel and what you've gone through, but I would want to be able to support you. Like, you are my friend, but like, if I saw a friend that was going through something and thought or might suspect, how can I talk to people, or how can I help validate or help be a safe place for friends that may have OCD for them to come and talk to?
I love this question. I'm so glad that you asked it because this is so important for people. I've done videos on it. I've done all kinds of stuff. So here's the thing. When someone is experiencing OCD, the best gift that you can give them is to believe them. And I know that that's true with all mental illness, but with OCD in particular, believe them. We are so wrapped up in our own intrusive thoughts, and the secondary fear that comes along with it is, what if I don't have OCD and these are real? And I'm sure you can see how difficult that could be for someone who has harm OCD or pedophilia themed OCD or things that, like, at the end of the day, these are horrible things that they know they're not, but they can't stop thinking about them. And so the worst thing, if you hear anything from tonight, the worst thing that you can do if someone comes to you and has OCD and says, I have these intrusive thoughts, Do not say, well, do you think that the thoughts are real?
No.
Ever. Never, ever say that. Because what's happening is that they have mustered up so much courage to even tell you in a way that they need you to believe them. We're already struggling with that question in our brain. We're already like day in and day out, who knows for how many years. And to actually tell someone and then have them say, like, you know, if someone is gay and they're worried they're straight and they go to someone and they go, well, do you think you're really straight? Oh my God, that will destroy them. So if you have a friend that confides in you with intrusive thoughts and says, I think I have OCD, I think this, believe them and say, what can I do to support you? What is going to help and what is going to hurt? That's the best way. I'm also going to plug John Hirschfield's book, When a Family Member Has OCD. It's a great book if you have someone in your life that has OCD, on how to support them in a positive way that isn't contributing to symptoms. Because unfortunately, reassurance seeking is a mental ritual. And so like my husband knows now, damn it, that when I'm struggling with OCD, I'll be like, hey, do you think this is going to happen? And he'll be like, maybe it does. Because that's the therapy of it. But like, I wish I'd never told him that reassurance was bad, because sometimes I really want it. Anyway, but that's the answer to the question, is like, if someone confides in you, know, first of all, they trust you beyond whatever. And second of all, please believe them and don't ask questions that are really going to make them question the validity of them knowing they have OCD.
Cool. So
That's it. I mean, that was beautiful. That was my final thought, Rudy.
okay, there we go. Final thoughts. Chrissy Hodges.
Wow, I can't believe it's been an hour and I feel like I just rambled and talked so much. As you know, I'm so passionate about this topic. Like my people are my intrusive thoughts people. I'm one of them. I almost died by this illness. I feel so lucky that I survived and I was able to come back and really do something with the experience. My final thoughts are this: look, people, you are not alone. I know that you're going to think that you are. OCD is one of the loneliest illnesses. And the reason why is because it's ego dystonic. You have all this weird shit going on over here, but then you have this insight of like, I know that this isn't real, but I can't stop thinking it, so that must mean this. Here's my thing. Don't go to a therapist that doesn't do exposure response prevention, ERP, exposure response prevention, ERP. Don't see a therapist that's not doing that. If you need support, reach out to me at chrissyhodges.com. I do peer support. We're now starting groups at ocdpeers.com. You can reach out to, oh my God, there's madeofmillions.com, treatmyocd.com, intrusivethoughts.org. There's the OCDstories.com. I just want you to know, it doesn't matter what you're experiencing. You're going to think you're the only one. You're going to think you're a monster. You're going to think there's no hope. There is hope. We're out there and we're everywhere. And as we talked about earlier, like the statistics are fucking skewed. Like there's so many more of us than any of us even know ourselves. So just know that there is hope. Please hang on. Please reach out to someone that you can trust and go to a therapist that does exposure response prevention. And thank you so much for being here and, you know, and hearing what I have to say. Some of this stuff is tough and some of these topics and themes are hard to hear. But if you are experiencing them, I see you, I hear you, and I'm validating you. You're not alone.
Any other way people can connect with you?
ChrissyHodges.com is probably the best way. You can go onto the website and send a submission form. You can follow me at Facebook at Treatment for OCD, or on Instagram. I post all OCD stuff at Pure O Chrissy, and I'm on Twitter at Pure O Chrissy, but I never post anything because I can't deal with the limit of words I would have to say. As you can probably tell.
Yeah, and this would be around the time where I'd hawk your book, I'd put it on the screen, but I moved, and so like it's everything.
And I moved, and I don't even have it here. I can't even show you a copy of my book.
I know, and you signed my copy. I drove all the way to San Francisco for that. I ended up getting a massive speeding ticket on the way home, almost falling asleep in my on my Miata, like on the freeway. Hudson,
At some point, I'm going to pay you back for that.
Rudy, I'd be so pissed off if something happened to you. Do you understand how mad I'd be at you, young man?
Yes.
And then it would be my fault, Hudson. So then you'd be pissed off at a lot of people.
All right. So that's going to do it for this week. SPSM chat, suicide prevention, social media. Thank you to everyone watching. Make sure to keep the conversation going throughout the week by using that hashtag SPSM. I'm Rudy Caceres at Rudy Caceres on Twitter. We are, of course, as a unit at SPSM chat. Go make sure to follow us not only on Twitter, but also facebook.com/SPSM chat, youtube.com/SPSM chat. Make sure to go to spsmchat.com. The great thing about having you on again, Chrissy, for the blog is that I can just copy and paste most of the information from that, including like the resources, because I believe I put Jonathan Hirschman's book as well as one of the resources. So there you go. Awesome. So again, thank you, Chrissy. I promise this will be the last time for a very long time that I will ask you for a favor.
Oh, I'm always up for favors. Come on now. Anytime you want me to come on, it's such a pleasure. It's such a pleasure.
Well, I'll at least wait until you get settled in your new home. How about
So
that?
a week.
Cool. Thank you again, Hudson, for being my co-host. I know you got a lot of things going on in the world. I know you're trying to like save the universe and all that stuff. You're strategizing. You're always strategizing, but I'm glad you took some time.
My pleasure. I love being here, Rudy. And Chrissy, it's a pleasure to see you again. I look forward to seeing you soon.
Absolutely.
When are you going to see her? Like, what do I not know?
I don't know. I assume that for good people, I'm going to see them soon. So I'll see you both soon.
Yes. And on that note, I will let Hudson give the final sign-off for tonight. We'll, of course, be here next Sunday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Central Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Everyone else in the world, you do the math. Sign us off, Hudson Harris.
Thank you again for another wonderful episode of SPSM Chat. You are not alone. We love you, we see you, and we validate who you are. Have a good night, everybody.
Oink, oink.